First of all, you don't really appreciate the freedom you have until it's taken away from you. And you don't appreciate the food you eat until your stomach gets upset at the out-of-date food that they serve you in those prison cells. But I will also say that being in Istanbul as a Muslim in particular, I was saying this to a friend the other day, I said just hearing the adhan on the street, you get shivers when you hear it as well. Not only because as a Muslim you love Allah and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also you're aware of what the adhan represents. You're aware of in the past how there were attempts by certain forces in order to prevent that adhan from being presented out loud, from being presented in its original form. That this adhan is a symbol that freedom exists in Istanbul. It's a symbol that the people of Istanbul and the people of Turkey who campaign for their freedom, they are winning. They continue to win, and inshallah nobody will ever colonize Turkey. Americans were overwhelmingly in favor of the Israelis. Now we can see that as a result of social media and the decentralization of information that Americans have access to, we're seeing the shift now from pro-Israel to very much pro-Palestinian. And we've seen it in very prominent personality. The backlash from the Zionists who are really upset about it, the Zionists decided to embark on an attack on Americans' freedom of speech. They decided that in order to prevent this shift from taking place, we need to prevent Americans from receiving the information of the reality of what's happening in Palestine. And we also need to prevent Americans from speaking freely about what's happening in Palestine and prevent any criticism of Israel. So what they did first is, the Zionist lobby went after American citizens who campaign for Americans to be aware of what's happening in Palestine, knowing that if Americans hear the truth, or in the belief that if Americans see the truth, American hearts will flip accordingly and there might be political change, as we saw with Mamdani in New York. The Zionists failed to get these American citizens into prisons and the like. They lost the cases in Michigan and Nevada. So the Zionist lobby said, let's go after naturalized citizens. So they threatened Mehdi Hassan and these others, and they failed to do anything to Mehdi Hassan. Then they said, okay, let's go after green card holders, Mahmoud Khalil, and they failed to get Mahmoud Khalil's green card removed, and they failed to get Mahmoud Khalil deported. Then they said, this is really problematic. We're struggling to get Americans to stop talking about Palestine and stop talking about the genocide. Let's go after students, because students are protesting in the universities, and some universities are starting to divest from Israel. So they went after Rumaysa Ozturk, they went after Muhsin Mahdawi, but the courts ruled that Rumaysa should be released and Muhsin should be released. It is in this context that they came across an individual called Sami Hamdi, who's on a B1, B2 tourism business visa. We need something to show that we still have some power, because we're losing a lot of power and influence in America. In the words of Donald Trump, according to the Financial Times, he said to the Zionists that you used to control Congress. I don't think they control Congress anymore in the way that they used to. So I was giving lectures in America about the genocide that was taking place, about various Middle East issues, Syria, Turkey, etc. And a video went viral in Zionist circles, where I was in Kuala Lumpur and I was telling an audience that because they were raising their voices and speaking about what's happening, Americans are now hearing, Americans are now listening, because millions and billions are talking, the algorithm is prioritizing Palestine, and now we're seeing people change their hearts from pro-Israel to pro-Palestine. A right-wing extreme Zionist called Dinesh D'Souza put this video and said this person is talking about changes in America and celebrating the spread of Islam. This person is dangerous. Ted Cruz retweeted it. Then a lady called Laura Loomer, she takes the video and she says that this person is giving lectures in America, we need to get him out and we need to remove his visa. Then 2 days later, she does a tweet where she says, guys, I'm in Washington, I'm in Congress, and in 2 days, I have very good news coming to you about a certain UK citizen who is giving lectures on Palestine in America. Friday, I went to San Francisco airport to fly to Florida. I passed through security. I look up to see where is the gate to fly to Florida. And the man stands up, comes to me and says to me, excuse me, are you Mr. Sami Hamdi? I said, yes. He said, I'm here to inform you that your visa has been revoked. I said, what do you mean my visa has been revoked? He said, here is the paper from the State Department. It says we revoked your visa under section this, but it doesn't give a reason. I haven't committed a crime. I haven't done anything wrong. So I said that nobody told me that you were even considering to take away my visa, because usually you'd give me 24 hours to leave the country. But let's suppose what you say is true. Fine, I won't go to Florida. I'll go right now to the gate for London and I'll go home to London. He said, that's not how this works. I said, what happens now? He said, you come with us. Remember, I won't go through the entire story, but some highlights here. I remember when I entered the facility, they were checking us all in. And then they cuffed my legs so tightly until they went blue, and they would load you in the back of a van. And even during periods, they would make us stay in a cell, 15 people in a 6x6 cell, which was like a triangle, with an open toilet in the middle. So everybody would see what you are doing if you sat in that toilet. It was like being in, you know, the stuff that you see in these movies that they claim happens in the third world. It's happening in America itself. And then they said to me, sign this paper, you'll be able to go home. The paper says I am guilty. I said, but I committed no crime. What am I guilty of? The government came and said, listen, can we just make a deal? We'll make all of this go away. You go back, misunderstanding, etc., whatnot. I said, I was supposed to go home like 5 days ago. Like, I need to go home. So the government made a deal. They said, listen, no charges, no nothing. You go home. I said, but my record stays clean. They said, your record stays clean. You can apply for a visa later. So I made the deal, and then I went home and I landed, and the Zionists were very upset that instead of staying there 8, 9, 10 months, I only stayed there 18 days.